Hello everyone, this is John with some footage from the Spartanburg Pro Men's race down in Spartanburg, South Carolina. This is first night of Speed Week, so this is right from the start. Just got a few laps in the daytime so you can actually see the course. But it was a four-corner course. There's a little bit of a climb up to the start-finish. None of the corners were super tight. You could pedal through definitely these first two, and then 3 and 4 were a little bit faster. But the race started at like 7:30, I think, and it got dark pretty quickly. It was fairly dark around most of the course, but not super bad in terms of these twilight races. So this is the long backstretch. They were selling these tents along the course, so people were like tailgating out there all day for the races. It was pretty neat. I think it's a pretty cool idea that other crits should maybe try. But this is corner 4. It's a little bit tight on the exit. And then there's this uphill drag. It doesn't look like it in the video, but as we're heading up towards that Denny's building on the left, it's a little bit of an uphill the whole way until you cross the start finish. And then you just have to take like a few good pedal strokes over the top, and then you drop down towards the first corner. And so now the first corner is pretty wide. There was an inside line that went over like some bricks that people were kind of afraid to take most laps, but it was pretty fast, and you could get past some people with pretty minimal effort if you had the opportunity to try and sneak by there. But this race was pretty fast the whole time, like single file. There was like a few laps towards the end where it let up enough that like it started bunching and you could move up, that I'll show you later. But for the most part, this was a pretty tough race, which was honestly kind of nice because you could take the corners pretty easily since it was just single file. When it did get bunched up, it got a lot harder to go through the corners, especially because people would grab a whole fistful of brake. There's a couple times, I think I got one later on, where you're getting like edged off the back of the field, and because the field slows down so much for the corners to string out, like it provided an opportunity to close back down pretty big gaps that would maybe open. So now we're going to jump ahead to a little bit later in the race once it has gotten properly dark out for the twilight crit. So up to this point, I had just kind of been sitting in probably too far back really, but I couldn't do much about moving up. But it would have been nice if I had been able to, because what happens in these USA Crits events is the fitness requirements are very high, so guys will get dropped like just in the draft. So we'll see that on this section. I think you see this guy like pull out right here on the right in the orange, and then you'll like have your head down, focused on that wheel in front of you, and you don't even realize until like after we come through these first two corners, you're like, oh man, everybody was slowing down, and now there's this gap opening, and then you end up having to like put your nose into the wind and make an effort like you're at the front of the race, except for you're at the back of the race just holding on for dear life. Yeah, so nobody wanted to chase that. Like 4 guys sat up and just looked at each other, and I was like, well, I came all the way down here from Colorado, so I'm not going to just sit up and watch the race go. So I get on the front and make a pretty big effort. Luckily, the field was slowing down a lot through these corners, so you can see the gap was still sizable coming into corner 3. But when I had space ahead of me and I could rail those 2 corners, boom, right back up onto the back of the pack. I think just for like the same thing to happen again on the next lap, there's definitely a lot of benefits to being further up these races, which is something I need to put a lot more effort into, rather than like putting in these huge moves just to cover gaps off the back. You know, you could be like actually contributing to something closer to the front. So yeah, here's another gap that opens. This one's maybe more my fault. I think I thought more people were going to come around the outside of me between corner 1 and 2, but nobody did. So now I had to get on my horse here and try to get back close enough so that I could, go hard through corner 3 and 4 to close down the gap. It's not like a bad way to race. A lot of the like faster guys who were back in the pack were like letting gaps open so they could take the corners faster and not have to pedal as much out of them. which is pretty smart, especially like the automatic guys. They seem to like to sit really far back at these events until the very last second, where they all just amass on the front and deliver Gibbons to like a podium. But until like, I don't know, 5 or 10 to go, you'll see them like hanging onto the back of the pack where I am. So, oh yeah, this is the inside line on corner 1. You could cut across the pavement there, those little cobblestones, they weren't really bumpy, and then take a ton of momentum up the inside. You could still pedal through this corner. I didn't get past anybody in that corner, but I do think it was like a little bit easier time sliding through. So after like the first 45 minutes or so, a lot of guys got dropped in the first 45, and then it started to well, I don't think it eased up. I think just like everybody who had the fitness to stay to that point also had the fitness to stay in until the end. So that was kind of nice, especially as someone sitting so far back, because there was less people getting just like dropped out of the draft, which made it a lot easier to be sitting back here. So I think next we're going to jump much closer to the end of the race. Oh yeah, that inside line I was talking about again. Got a spot back. Oh yeah, and then this was like with 15 minutes to go maybe, like after being strung out for the entire race, the field finally started to swell up, and you can like see on the right side here, yeah, that field's going like all the way across from fence to fence. And my initial thought was, you're like, hallelujah, it's finally slowing down. But it's a good opportunity to jump up a few spots, so like got a few wheels just being laid on the brakes into that corner. And then same thing, if you could carry momentum through corner 3, you could carry way more momentum through corner 4. And a little bit of an effort to like get back into the wheels here, but totally worth it. Got a few places pretty easily. And I think it swelled up again the next lap through, which is like maybe the only 2 times it happened during the race that I could see. It's very different when you're like in the race at the back compared to when you're watching it. It looks like a lot easier to move up until you're in there doing it, and you're like, well, I can't go anywhere. But yeah, it swelled up again on this backside, and just being late on the brakes into corner 3 provided lots of easy opportunities to snag a few spots. So I ended up finishing this one on the lead lap, which I was super stoked about. That's like my number 1 goal for all these USA Crits events, like 48th or something. So hopefully can improve on that a little bit before the end of the season. But like considering this is one of the biggest crit weekends in the country, I was very excited about that heading into night 2 in Athens, which I'll have a video for that for you guys too. So thanks for watching. Bye.